Hello there, it's Drew, aka Public Enema, and today I wanted to talk about minigames and JRPGs. They've become a staple in the genre, from Final Fantasy to Xenoblade to Trails. Just about every entry has some type of minigame or side content present. So I thought it would be fun to look at 10 standout minigames from the JRPGs that I've played. And if you like what you see, be sure to like and share and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get to the list. I'll start the list with maybe a controversial pick for some. Love it or hate it, you have to acknowledge how unique and ambitious Blitzball from Final Fantasy X is. This underwater, weird blend of soccer, rugby, and water polo is pretty well developed. And the recruitable pool, get it, of players is huge, each with their own stat growth and progression. You can pseudo-customize players by copying enemy skills, and with enough time and effort, you can turn the aptly named default keeper, Keepa, into a scoring machine if you wanted to. If you're planning on tackling the post-game challenges like the Dark Aeons or Penance, then you'll likely be playing a lot of Blitzball. Waka is widely considered essential for all of the super bosses, but unfortunately his ultimate weapon and his best overdrive is all locked behind leagues and tournaments. And that's ultimately my biggest issue behind Blitzball and a lot of the other side activities in Final Fantasy X. I get wanting to reward players for mastering minigames and side content, but effectively locking out non-Blitzball enthusiasts from the post-game challenges is pretty unfortunate. But even with that being said, I have mostly fond memories of Blitzball. It's imaginative, well fleshed out, and actually pretty important to the story. All the FMVs involving the Blitz stadiums are all fantastic, and it makes me wish somehow this fictitious sport were feasible in real life. So yes, maybe you hate Blitzball for the grind associated with it, but you must at least admit it's a pretty cool idea, and made quite a splash in Final Fantasy X. From one controversial entry to another, next up on the list is Tiger Tiger from Xenoblade Chronicles 2. A lot of what I said for Blitzball also works here for Tiger Tiger. More like a full-fledged arcade game within the game, it's another unique entry for the list. The premise behind the game is pretty simple. Guide a submersible to the bottom of the ocean, gathering ether gems and treasures while avoiding enemies. Easier said than done. Like the 80s arcade cabinets that probably inspired the game, it's freaking hard. Instead of investing quarter after quarter, you'll be pumping hours into this game. Like Blitzball, upgrades for one of the game's best characters are locked behind Tiger Tiger. Tora's Blade, Poppy, is one of the best characters for the game when she's properly invested into. I mean, seriously, she can be game-breaking. But unfortunately, there's not really a way to cheese Tiger Tiger. Sure, there are strategies and some secret areas to increase your ether score, but if you want to build Poppy, you'll be spending a lot of time with Tora's homemade arcade cabinet. Is it a great minigame? No. But the potential is there, and it's unique enough that I think it's at least worth mentioning for the list. At number 8 on the list, we have Chinchurorin from Suikoden, and I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Chinchurorin is a dice game that few outside of Japan knew of prior to Suikoden's release. The concept is pretty simple. Roll 3 dice into a cup. If 2 dice match, then your score is the 3rd die. You could also roll a storm, which is 3 of a kind. 4, 5, and 6 pay out big, winning triple your original bet, but triple 1, 2, 3 means you lose 3 times the bet. Or you could roll a 4, 5, and 6 for double wins, or a 1, 2, 3 for double losses. Be careful though, if any of the dice fall out of the bowl, it's called a piss, and you automatically lose the bet. That's it. Super simple and easy to pick up. Luckily, in Suikoden, you can recruit Taiho the fisherman, and he loves to gamble. Taiho is responsible for financing the Turon Liberation Army in every single one of my Suikoden playthroughs. With a little luck and a fair amount of save scumming, your army will never want for money ever again once this minigame is unlocked. Chinchurorin appears in Suikoden 2 and Suikoden 4, but it's most cheesable in Suikoden 1. It's the best sort of minigame. It's not mandatory to progress the story, outside of needing to beat Taiho in order to recruit him. And it's short, simple, and rewards the player who invests in it with more money than the army will ever need. Sticking with the Suikoden series, number 7 is the Cook-Off minigame from Suikoden 2. When I was younger, I loved watching the original Iron Chef dubs on the Food Network, so I was really excited to find an Iron Chef-like minigame in Suikoden 2. This minigame is unlocked once Chef Hayo joins your army, and then challengers will arrive to the castle, alleging that Hayo has stolen some important recipe, and you and Hayo must defeat them in a cooking duel. For the minigame, several guest judges will be introduced, with the game hinting at likes and preferences for each judge. And based on that information, you'll have to choose an appetizer, a main course, and a dessert that will match the judge's best taste. There's actually a huge amount of combinations and a surprising amount of nuance to the judge scoring. And hidden in the world, there are something like 40 recipes to find for the minigame. I absolutely love this minigame. I really enjoy cooking in real life, and trying to plan a menu to match the preferences of each judge is a lot of fun. This minigame is completely optional and has no influence on the story outside of finding closure for Hayo's own personal story. And I think this was just a very unique minigame, especially at the time of the original game's release. And I'm really looking forward to revisiting the kitchen with Hayo when the Syokoden remasters eventually come out. And I'm excited to see that Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes also looks to have a cooking game included, so its legacy lives on. At number 6, we have the mech brawler minigame from Xenogears. Xenogears as a whole was an incredibly ambitious game at the time of its release, and even with all of its warts, the story it tells is still one of the best I've played in a game to date. It already boasted a unique battle system, being heavily influenced from fighting games, while both on-foot and mech battles present. But that wasn't enough. The developers also felt the need to include a fully developed, real-time 3D action mech brawler mode in the game that is arguably more fun than the original battle system. This mode is introduced in the city of Norchun and is actually a requirement to advance the story. Faye must defeat several gears in battle in order for the game to continue. The game could have easily had these battles take place in the already present turn-based gear battle system, but no. They opted for a fast-paced and action-packed fighting game. And after clearing the story battles, you can unlock a wide range of playable gears and can start accruing battle points, which can be exchanged for items. Battles consist of one-on-one fights between 2 gears, and you have 3 attack options. You'll dash, jump, and boost your way across large maps, trying to whittle down the opposing gear's health bar before they can do the same to you. Overall, I think it's a really fun way to blow off some steam when you need a break from Xenogears' heavy story and Jungian philosophy. At number 5, we have Fishing from Final Fantasy XV. Come on, you knew there had to be a fishing entry somewhere on the list. Fishing minigames have become pretty ubiquitous in the JRPG landscape, so there are a ton of options to choose from, but I feel like Final Fantasy XV's implementation has to be the best, beating out the likes of Tales of Arise and Ys 8. Final Fantasy XV's fishing game is actually so good, Square released it as a standalone product with VR capabilities as Monster of the Deep Final Fantasy XV. This fishing game is certainly well fleshed out. Noctis's fishing skill is leveled up the more you play, with bigger and bigger fish becoming available. With some skill and mixing and matching of different lures and lines, a ton of fish are available to catch. Some are required to finish side quests, while others will inspire Ignis to learn a new recipe.
That's it! I've come up with a new recipe.
If you're really into the fishing minigame, you can even unlock perks via the game's Ascension Grid that will reward Noctis with experience and AP points for his fishing exploits. Some of the bigger trophy fish really give you a nice sense of accomplishment when you can finally reel them in. Final Fantasy XV gets a lot of hate at times, but few other games can capture the sense of a road trip with your best friends, full of camping and fishing. And the next time Ignis suggests you call it a night and don't drive after dark, maybe listen to him and start planning your next fishing stop instead. At number 4, we have Earthborn from Eastward. I hesitated to include Earthborn on the list because I'm not sure I would classify Eastward as an RPG. But ultimately, I decided Earthborn's RPG-ness to be enough to include it on the list anyways. Earthborn is the game within a game. It exists as a retro-style roguelite, very reminiscent of early Dragon Quest games within the world of Eastward. Once you buy a memory card for Sam, you're free to jump into the world of Earthborn. Just be prepared to die a lot. The premise is pretty simple. You play as the knight, and your job is to defeat the evil Demon King within 7 days. Each time you die, the knight starts out again at level 1. However, the fast travel beacons and the characters you unlock along the way will be easily available for the next playthrough. You can also collect items from the Eastward world in the form of toy capsule machine Pixballs, and will unlock items within Earthborn for the party. The first time I played Earthborn, I thought it was a cute dose of nostalgia, but didn't think too much of it otherwise. But as I've progressed through Eastward, I found myself returning to Earthborn anytime I wanted to break from the main game. And with each run through Earthborn, I've enjoyed myself more and more. Sure, it's a hard game, but the slow progress of fleshing out the Knight's party has been pretty enjoyable. I'm only about halfway through Eastward so far, and probably halfway through Earthborn as well. but I'm looking forward to the moment where I can finally slay the Demon King and see how Sam reacts. At number 3, we have Wheels from Sea of Stars. Sea of Stars was one of my favorite games from 2023. Although the narrative was a little shallow, everything else about the game more than made up for the story for me. The pixel art is amazing, the standout soundtrack lives rent-free in my head most days, and the battle system was engaging and fun. But another strong part of that game was the minigame Wheels. And Wheels is pretty simple to pick up, but took some time and some luck to master. The point of the game is to reduce your opponent's castle durability from 10 to 0, and each side has 2 attackers consisting of a knight, archer, mage, priest, engineer, or assassin, and they all have different abilities and buffs. Each turn you spin the wheel and choose whether to build up your bulwark to protect your castle, or to buff and attack the opponent's bulwark castle with your characters. As you play more Wheels champions in the game world, you unlock more attack classes and improved Wheels for better rolls every turn. The game is just so imaginative and fun. I love the clockwork aesthetic of the game that 100% fits into the Sea of Stars game world. And if Sabotage Studios ever released a standalone arcade version of Wheels, I would definitely buy it. Or, as a pipe dream, a home version would be really cool. I found myself spending a lot of time in Sea of Stars, hanging around in the taverns, listening to the pirate versions of the game's soundtrack, and challenging the local Wheels champion, just for fun. The penultimate entry on the list is Pom Pom Party from the Trails series. Although mentioned in Trails from Zero, Pom Pom Party doesn't become playable until Trails to Azure, and it also returns in Cold Steel 4 and Trails into Reverie. Pom Pom Party is a falling puzzle game not completely unlike Tetris or Puyo Puyo. Just match 3 palms of the same color to clear them from the board. And like most games on the list, the premise is simple to pick up but difficult to master. To beat the more difficult opponents, you'll have to chain together several combos at a pretty high rate of speed to rack up CP. And once you hit 100 CP, you can unleash a special attack to fill up your opponent's board quickly, or clear yours if you're in a pickle. Some of the late game players have unreal speed, and you'll really need several tries to finally defeat them. Beating all opponents will usually unlock a special quartz, which is by no means necessary to clear the game, but it's nice to have. The Trail series is known for its world building and very story-heavy sequences, so it's really nice to have a fun distraction in the form of Pom Pom Party. The theme music, especially in the Azure version, is fantastic, and I found myself loading up my save when I had a few minutes to spare just to play some Pom Pom Party. I'm not sure if Pom Party will make it into the Calvary Republic games, but it's definitely a fun way to take a break from the main story in Azure, Cold Steel 4, and Reverie. Was there ever any doubt to the top entry on the list? At number 1, Triple Triad from Final Fantasy VIII is easily the king of RPG minigames. This addictive card game is arguably the highlight of Final Fantasy VIII. From the first time I heard Shuffle or Boogie, I was hooked. With its base rules, again, the premise is simple. Players take turns placing cards on a 3x3 grid. If your card's number is higher than your opponent's, then you win the card. Whoever has the most cards at the end of the game wins, and your reward is getting to take one of your opponent's cards to add to your collection. It's so much fun tracking down all the special Guardian Force and character cards, and with a fair amount of saves coming to make sure you don't lose any of the rare ones. Part of Final Fantasy VIII's charm is the multitude of ways to build into the game's systems that allow the player to break the game. And perhaps the most fun way to break the game, though, is linked to the card game. One of your first Guardian Forces allow you to learn the card command, and this will turn any enemy encountered into a card without giving any experience points. And these cards can then be refined into items, which can be further refined into weapon parts or magic spells that can be junctioned to your stats. And in a game where enemies scale with your level, that's everything. Without defeating a single enemy, you can effectively power level your entire party, just by winning at cards. It's even possible to cheese all the ultimate weapons for your characters in the first disc using the card game. One thing to be aware of are all the different rules each region of the world has for Triple Triad. And it makes sense that different parts of the world would have rule variations, and it's a nice piece of world building, but it can be a real pain if the random rule spreads throughout the region. Fortunately, you can abolish rules you don't like with a little luck and trial and error. And be sure to hit the Card Club and the Queen of Cards side quest to find all of the super rare cards in the game. Triple Triad has been so popular, Square even decided to add it into Final Fantasy XIV. And although I haven't re-upped my subscription since they added the card game, it makes me happy to know that Triple Triad lives on. Final Fantasy VIII is often overshadowed by its fellow PS1 era Final Fantasies. And as good as Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy IX may be, I feel that Final Fantasy VIII is a fantastic game in its own right, and Triple Triad is absolutely a part of Final Fantasy VIII's legacy. So what are you waiting for? Put on some shuffle or boogie and get ready to save the world. But first, how about a game of cards? It was no secret I was going to end on Triple Triad, right? Like, that is by far the best minigame that I've ever come across in a JRPG. But anywho, there were the 10 that I came up with. Which minigame of yours did I forget to add in, or which one do you totally disagree with? Be sure to let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.